Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to another weekend update. So Thursday I dropped a video regarding sector rotation, and with that being said, I wanted to touch up more on the indexes, right, in relation to that and how I kind of see some of the FAANG stocks, right, proceeding in the future. So this is kind of the bull version I am monitoring, right, to kind of see when we do pullback. Right, when we're seeing the dips likely get bought, I will be watching this 3,900 area, right, which is an important previous demand resistance kind of zone, right? Which could cause a reaction again further up. So this is one of the bull versions I'm watching, right? I'm watching to see again, very shallow pullback, right? And I'm watching to see if this pullback holds and the index, kind of pushes up to about 4150, 4200, right? Before this A wave is finished, before, we come down for this B wave, and, you kind of have a C wave in WXY, right? So I kind of have a running flat kind of taking place in a bigger ABC in the market. So that's kind of what I see. And alternatively, the other version I'm watching is more bearish than the one I showed you, right? Here again, we will bounce off the 3,900 zone. Again, it's not going to come straight down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But again, once we bounce, we will see, another C wave in a B wave to the downside. And I will be watching to see if, the previous demand areas right here, if they're likely to hold, right? If zone holds, then we have another C wave. So as you can see, right, after the sector rotation I've discussed, I'm kind of, especially since everyone just, I have the same chart too. So that's why I'm forced to reevaluate, because it's highly improbable that every single person that I'm watching, just happens to be watching the same thing. So yeah, I am, especially after reviewing most of the sectors, and I will go through some of the FANG stocks, right? And you kind of understand why I'm leaning towards this way, right? Let me show you more reasoning to why I do think the market still has a long. Again, I'm not going to say it's going straight up, right? It will dip, but I'm saying the dips will get bought, right? And it will stabilize to at least as 4,300, 4,400 into Jan of next year. So that's kind of what my baseline thinking is, right? And let's go through some of the sectors, right? In the market. Number one, let's look at Meta, right? As a stock, we go to the daily chart of Meta, and we can see that, bigger picture, Meta has been in a stabilized downtrend in the market, right? And what I'm kind of seeing for Meta right now, right? Bigger picture, again, you can see this in ABC and the WXY, right? Most people probably have this labeled as a zigzag. I don't blame them. I just feel like this is a much more suited, analysis for Meta. But again, you can see right now, it's in a wave four, right? And in Meta, as you can see with the rest of the market, it still has a little more upside remaining, in this A wave, right? I think it does fill this earnings gap for an A wave, come down for the B wave before it pushes higher for this, kind of C wave up to 175. So again, Meta kind of, indicating that it has a more oversold bounce, left in it. And let's look at the RSI. I actually haven't checked to see if it's supportive of our thesis, right, on the daily chart. And you can see it does have bullish divergence, right? It made a higher low while the index made a lower low. So yeah, it does have bullish divergence to kind of justify the fact that Meta has more upside, and you can kind of see this on the weekly as well, right? So it does justify our thesis that Meta has much higher to go, right? We look at the next one, which is Amazon, right? Again, we look at the weekly chart, right? We can see that it's kind of sitting on the bottom of this channel, and Amazon is actually kind of lagging the rest of the market, which is why I think it's kind of important to watch to see. Again, wouldn't be surprising if Amazon comes down to, kind of retest this 90 area again before it pops, or it can, pop and make a higher low and go higher. But Amazon is, again, as you can see here, I do have this as X wave or B wave, whatever you kind of want to see it. And you can see we're kind of hovering over key fib levels, right? So I do think that this, right, you're kind of going to see some kind of pattern like this, right? A running flat play out before it comes down to make a new low, right? Push up to the top of this trend line channel is kind of base case what I'm looking at for Amazon. So Amazon, again, considering it is lagging, has much more higher upside to kind of go in the market, right? Again, Tesla, we know that testing the bottom of this channel. And again, same as Amazon and Meta, you can kind of see the similar case story for Tesla, where it does have a lot more room to the top of this channel. Again, kind of the same running flat that you kind of saw on Amazon. You can kind of see the same kind of pattern on Tesla as well, right? Versus Meta, you already saw that kind of play out, and it's kind of just consolidating. Can consolidate for another week, but I do think again, Meta kind of the same story, right? Even if it comes lower, it will make a higher low before it goes higher. So it does have RSI bullish divergence, right? Let's kind of check to see if Tesla has the same, right? Go to the daily chart of Tesla, you can see again, you can see it's been forming bullish divergence since October, right? So this likely dip gets bought and it likely plays out. You look at Amazon, for example, right? It's kind of made a double bottom. I don't want to call this a bullish divergence. Let's kind of see what we have on the weekly. On the weekly, you can kind of see that bullish divergence kind of forming, right? So it kind of tests our thesis that Amazon has much higher to go. So let's look at some of the more key stocks like Apple. Apple is a little more different, right? You can see this is a channel holding a support, this dependent holding its resistance. So I do think that Apple is a little more complicated in the sense that it probably does an ABCDE, kind of a triangle pattern, right? Pushes up to the top of the channel, comes down a little more, pushes up for this E wave, right? Kind of does some kind of, I'm just hypothesizing here, right? It's completely possible that Apple could, go up to make a new high, which would again kind of be an expanded flat, right? Before Apple comes down like this. But I do think a triangle could be more suited, right? Given all the bearish macro news that is there in Apple. But yeah, I'm watching both options, right? For now, I'm watching this, kind of pennant forming. Again, it's not going to go straight down like you see on the chart, right? Once it tops out Jan or Feb of 2023, we'll do something like this. So yeah, it's kind of what I'm watching for Apple. Apple obviously is still distributing, right? Has not really broken down. But look at Microsoft, right? We've mentioned this channel multiple times, and you can see Microsoft bounce off the bottom of the channel, the 200-day weekly, right? So again, Microsoft at minimum has room to the top of the channel. And as you can see on this chart here, again, a pullback on Microsoft, right? Likely gets bought before it goes higher. So bigger picture is kind of what I'm watching on Microsoft, right? Even if I was max bearish, I'd still expect Microsoft to go up to like 271 before it sells off. But yeah, I'm thinking I'll move up to 271 when it sells off. We'll still get bought, right? Again, some kind of running flat. And again, you can kind of see the fib ratios, right? Holding bounced out the 1.618 level. So again, an expanded flat, running flat, whatever you want to call it, right? On Microsoft is kind of what I'm seeing. So again, more room from to the opposite. So based on all the stocks that I've shown you, you can kind of see that Qs are kind of lagging. We discussed that in the sector rotation, right? Obviously, we did discuss some other sectors that are leading and some sectors that are lagging, right? But bigger picture, I do think that Qs will, push up to at least 308, right? Before, again, minor dips will be there, but push up to kind of 308. And then probably, again, come up to push up to, I don't know. I think 350 is too bullish, but at least, kind of 330 to kind of form some kind of running flat, right? To finish off this major B wave. Again, the more bullish version would take you to like 350, but yeah, bigger picture is kind of what I'm seeing. And we go to the weekly chart of the Qs, right? You can see that it does have an important trend line, right? So I do think that it won't bottom, right? Till we do hit this trend line at some point, could possibly break this trend line as well. So yeah, kind of what I'm watching on Qs, right? Kind of what's supporting, like most people kind of argue that, hey, it is a leading sector in a bear market. Yeah, I agree, but sectors just don't go straight down, right? You kind of saw that even in this rally, right? In this B wave, you kind of saw how fast Qs took off, right? It's not going to go straight down. It will have a technical correction up before we come back down, right? So yeah, kind of driving my broader thesis on the market, right? For kind of this bull case that I have. And again, I am watching a more bearish bull case where, the Qs again, like I showed you, let's just do it here, right? The Qs again, like I showed you a bull version, right? This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead, what could possibly happen is, again, kind of I'm ruling out this ABC. You've seen all the other charts on the mark on Twitter, right? So you don't need me to show you the same thing. So what alternatively I could also see happen is, again, the more bearish case, like I showed you on the index, we again pull back, but again, probably get bought up, right? 266, 270 area to push higher for the C wave up to 330, right? Again, the more bearish bull version, again, per se, is again what I'm seeing. But yeah, I'm just thinking that it's likely going to play something out like this, where dips are likely shallow, right? Just because of how the FAANG stocks are looking. And this is my thesis on the market. So, enough of me talking. right? Let's kind of look at what we have for this week's watch list. And before I finish that, we did discuss, dollar coming down to the 104, 105 area is an important bounce zone. So again, it could drive the more bearish case given that dollar has kind of completed and is coming into support, right? Relatively soon. So it could make sense that we are in a B wave lower, right? So again, kind of interesting to see whether dollar will get supported in this area or not. I just kind of wanted to add that. And we also know that Wix kind of just bouncing off of resistance could again put a downward pressure for the B wave. So yeah, it's the reason I did show you a more bearish case as well. All right, with that being said, let's look at this week's watch list, right? And this week's watch list, again, kind of have to give you both sides just because of how the market is playing out. But you can see Disney is in a tight pennant, right? So if we do break 96, it should be able to, come gap fill down to 92, 93 pretty easily. But again, if this dip does hold and it bounces, if it breaks over 99, should be able to run up to 105, 107 easily. So it's the reason I have Disney on this week's watch list. The next one is XLE. During the sector rotation, I did mention how XLE could be an interesting back burner shot, right? Again, even in the bear or bull version, right? Even if it bounces to fill this gap, it should come down to retest 86, right? And if bear push more, it should come down to 84, even below bear, right? So I think XLE, again, any bond should make a nice short, right? It's kind of sad it gap down and you couldn't take advantage of the short, but yeah, this is kind of right. If you're bearish, we'll see a move down to 86, 85. If you're bullish, 86, 85 before a move up. If you're bearish, likely continue selling off to the bottom of this channel. So yeah, excellent, nice back burner chart. Again, you can probably look at other oil stocks, right? Let me just, again, we went through this in sector rotation. And remember, we mentioned on the weekly that if it closes below, right, it did have a pretty weak close. And it's kind of why it gapped down. So it will be interesting to see if that bearish continuation, comes down to 66 and ultimately 58. If that continues, kind of for US oil, right? 3, 4, 5. Yeah, kind of what I'm watching on oil. Let's look at the next one, which is Amazon. Again, Amazon, I do have both bullish and bear versions, right? Kind of see if we break over this 94 resistance and chop did gap up for Black Friday sales. So it'll be interesting to see if Amazon follows through as well. So yeah, I do have just a kind of a short chase for obviously the weekly playlist, right? If it goes over 94, we can get 98, right? But obviously if this bear flag doesn't hold, right, we could definitely come down to retest this demand zone at 87 to finish out this B wave before it comes up. So it's kind of what I have for Amazon. Next one is Honeywell International. Again, it's pretty damn overbought, right? As you can see here. And if I go to the RSI, you can see that it is forming a bearish divergence on the 4-hour chart, right? So this bearish divergence is bound to play out at some point, right? At minimum, the less bearish version would take you to like 212, 210. If you're more bearish, it's likely, I do think it will, given that it's a relatively low wave too, I do think it's likely to come down to 200, right? Retest this breakout that it did. But yeah, would need a break below this wedge. But yeah, you can see a rising wedge. It will break down at some point in the next couple of weeks. And the last one is TAN. You can do the ETF or you can short some solar pays. Again, the reason for that is I go to the daily chart. You can see we are against a weekly resistance level, right, for the TAN ETF. So again, 78, 76 is a reasonable kind of target, and it's kind of what I'm watching for this 10. And that's kind of why, stocks like FSLR and Enphase, right, they are overbought, right? FSLR did gap down. It, again, is also in a rising wedge channel, right? You look at the 4-hour chart, it did gap down, so it could kind of make a good reversal short again. At minimum, I think a retest of a prior demand zone, right? Same for Enphase, made a new high, right? Could come down to retest a prior demand zone before it pushes higher. So yeah, that's all I have for this week. I hope you have a good week. Thank you.